It's absolutely huge. Not as big when you would go back to the currency market. And then the last would be speculation, because that in itself is one of the feeders of the commodity that they need, which is cash for excess speculation.
All right. Ms. Watson, my time's just about to expire, and Dr. Cooper, just briefly, please.
I really can't address that on behalf of FERC since it's not under our jurisdiction.
All right, thank you.
40, 40, 40. $40 for the economic cost of
You're good at staying on
well, but you know, but
we can learn from you.
The evidence clearly supports those three numbers. OPEC is only defending $80 a barrel. So the most recent $40 is coming from someplace else. The Senate Commerce Committee, the Senate Oversight Investigations Committee found 25. So it's quite clear. The oil companies have testified to something in the neighborhood of $40 per barrel for the economic costs. So these numbers are straightforward. They're on the table. We have to deal with them. And I would love to fix the supply and demand. That's tough. That's a long-term issue we've talked about. I know I can deal with the speculation if I roll up my sleeves, assert the national authority of the United States government, as Professor Greenberger has suggested, to regulate the commodities that are traded here. The United States accounts for 1/4 of all the gasoline consumed in the world. If we regulate this market well, we will whip the rest of the world into shape, as opposed to abandoning our authority to foreign governments and private corporations.
May I respectfully disagree with this 40-40, which I now heard too many times. I just think that is an exaggeration. I think that there are very serious underlying factors for the rise in the price of oil. And while it would be desirable to deal with this froth on top of those factors, we should not lose sight of the underlying problems that need to be addressed as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Senator Thune.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me ask that question another way. If, let's say today, the price per barrel of oil is $130, without the role of speculation, what's that price?
I think it goes down 25%, which is about $40. There's a tremendous speculative premium that's been inserted into the price of oil over essentially over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yes, Sunoco, ExxonMobil, and I believe Sunoco recently said 35 to 65, 50 to 55. There are a legion of economists who believe that there is at least a 1/4 speculative premium that has nothing to do with supply demand. And given what these oil companies are saying, and by the way, many of these oil companies are just as angry as Mr. Ram is. They can't hedge either. These airlines can't hedge anymore. These markets are not hedging. They're gambling casinos. They're not for commercial interests anymore. So it would go down, and it could go down very quickly, as if Dr. Cooper said, we rolled up our sleeves. This is not a hard problem.
And I've seen different assessments, too, and to quantify the impact of various parts of this equation. What, in terms of the weak dollar, what is the what would you say is the impact on the barrel of oil attributable to the fact that the dollar has been substantially below where it's been historically?
Well, I think Mr. Soros explained that about as well as it can be explained. If you're holding an asset that you control the price of and you can drive it up, Morgan Stanley is, I am told, Senator Snowe may know better, the largest holder of heating oil in New England, they don't want to release it. Because if they can control the price, and they're obviously doing a great job, Senator Snowe is telling you, in May, heating oil's going up. And they don't want to exchange it for the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is going down. That's a bad trade. So what do they want to do? They want to hold it. And that is, if there is a supply-demand problem, it is a question of hoarding here. The speculators are not just placing bets in these futures markets. They're saying, gosh, if I can control the price of heating oil, I'm going to go out and buy heating oil. So you have Morgan Stanley is the biggest heating oil owner in New England.
If I may, I think it's a little misleading if you that the way we are presenting it now. because let us say that there is, and I believe that there is, a speculative froth in the price of oil, and it has really developed in the last few months, and you can really see it. But underlying it, there is this problem that the cost of replacing the existing oil supply is rising, it's becoming increasingly costly, and the oil fields are aging, their depletion is accelerating, and there is this upward pressure on, also reinforced, which we didn't mention, the rising standard of living in the developed world. And against this, if you now head into a recession, price of oil would come down. But once you come out of the recession, it would go up again. So there is an underlying problem, and there is really a need to develop alternative sources of energy. We do have also global warming, which is a very serious problem. So while we are focusing on the speculative excesses, we should not lose sight of these underlying problems.
I disagree. There are fundamentals, market fundamentals, obviously, that are impacting this, but there's nothing that probably has more of an economic impact on my state than the price of energy. I mean, we are a cold weather climate. We are a geographically dispersed population, travel long distances, and agriculture is our number one economy. So this is an issue that we really got to get our arms around. Now, Dr. Cooper suggested the margin requirement for commodity trading among non-commercial traders should be 50% higher than the margin requirement for investment in stocks. Would that balance the role of speculative investment and productive investment?
I based that number on I did a simple little discount question of how much a dollar depreciates over 10 years when it's put into a long-term asset versus being flipped year after year. I did that at the two OMB mandated discount rates to simply get an idea of what it takes to balance the attractiveness of that short-term flip it every year and collect the returns versus hold it for 10 years and earn a normal return. So that simply reflects the time value of money between a one-year investment and a 10-year investment. I would encourage the committee to look for other things. We used to have a short-term capital gains tax. And in a capitalist economy, the single most powerful instrument of directing investment is tax policy. That's basically all you've got if you want to rely on a broad market approach. So I think that's an important thing to consider so that we rebalance the attractiveness of the short-term flipping, which became quite a phenomenon in the housing market, and long-term investments. We tell consumers invest long-term. We have to balance this playing field so that we can get the returns on the long-term investments.
Madam Chair, I know my time's expired. I'd like to ask some more questions. Maybe I could submit those, if possible, for the record. But thank you all very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Senator Thune. Senator Nelson.
Madam Chairman, I have just returned from my state of Florida, having done 18 town hall meetings, and I can tell you that people are frustrated, and it doesn't make any difference if you're in the urban parts of our state or in the rural parts of our state. They're frustrated. That frustration is turning into anger, and a lot of it has to do with the price of gas. And it is incumbent upon us, as I was constantly attacked in these town hall meetings by people that were sent there by certain special interests to say, well, the solution is just for us to drill more. Well, of course, here's a chart from 1994 to 2007. The red bars indicate the drilling permits that were issued, and the more drilling permits that were issued in these latter years of 2004, 05, 06, and 07, and you can see the graph, the price of gasoline keeps going higher and higher, which would defy those who want the easy solution of just drill more. And of course, this is this broken record that I talk about all the time about going to alternative sources of energy and so forth. Now,